Hey, Steve, how are you? Hey, Joe.
How you doing? Am I still getting feedback?
You're okay right now, except for looking at the ceiling.
Got a heavy agenda tonight.
Yeah.
Hey, Steve.
You're muted, Steve.
Joe, you got to redirect your camera. We can't see your face.
There you go.
There you go. How you doing?
Hey, everyone.
Hey, Rob.
Hey, Ashley. How are you, Rob?
Hello. Hey, Rob.
How's everyone?
Rob, good evening, everyone.
Okay.
Hi.
Hey, Jessica.
Hi.
Hi, Eileen.
Good evening.
Eileen, are we expecting anyone else?
Um,
Chandru.
We're missing Amy and Jody right now.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Evening.
Well, we got 7, so let's get started and then we'll, if they show up, we'll move them over. Yep.
Here's Amy. Okay, if you want to start, Steve?
Yeah, let's get going.
Okay, great, yeah. I'll keep a lookout for Jody.
That's fine.
Okay. In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, be advised that notice of this meeting was made by posting on the bulletin board in Town Hall and mailing to the officially designated newspapers a list of the meeting dates annually, indicating that this meeting would be taking place on Monday, July 18th, 2022, at 7 p.m. via Zoom webinar. Amy Lawrence?
Here.
Joseph Steinberg?
Joe, you're muted.
Here,
Steve Toger?
Here.
Wolfgang Tutoris?
Here.
Chandru Harjani?
Here.
Ashley Abigdor? Here. Vice Chairwoman Jessica Glatt?
Here.
Chairman Craig Putner?
Here. Thank you very much. So we have a full docket tonight, that's for sure. We're going to start with our approval of minutes. Joe, if you could mute yourself.
sure.
So first set of minutes we have is of June 6th, 2022. Who's eligible to vote on those?
Eligible are Amy, Jody, Joe, Steve, Wolfgang, Chandru, Ashley, Craig.
Full shot. So any corrections or changes to those minutes? If not, can I have a motion to approve?
Move approval.
I move approval.
A second?
Is that Wolfgang? I thought I heard Wolfgang, yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? Motion passes. Next, we have the minutes of 6/20/22.
I don't think those are circulated. I'm pretty sure
they're
those
not?
are not
Okay.
finished.
I thought there were. Okay, no problem. Then we're gonna move on to our memorializations. First one we have this evening is calendar 386721 Kapil Dehingra 95 Falmouth Street in Short Hills. Who's eligible to vote on that?
Amy, Jody, Joe, Steve, Wolfgang, Chandru, Craig.
Any corrections or changes to those? If not, would one of those people like to make a motion to adopt that?
I move the adoption.
Thank you, Joe. In a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Wolfgang.
Amy Lawrence,
Yes.
Joseph Steinberg,
Yes,
Steve Toger,
Yes.
Wolfgang Torres,
Yes.
Chandru Harjani,
Yes.
Craig Plantner.
Yes. Next up, we have calendar 387022, Debjit and Indrani Banerjee, 100 Canubrook Road in Short Hills. Who's eligible on that?
Amy, Jody, Joe, Wolfgang, Chandru.
Any corrections or changes to those minutes? Sorry, that memorialization? If not, can I have a motion to adopt that memorialization?
Move approval of the adoption of a memorialization for calendar number 3870-22.
Thank
I
you.
can second.
Chandra, the second.
Amy Lawrence,
Yes.
Joseph Steinberg,
yes,
Wolfgang Torres,
Yes.
Chandru Harjani.
Yes.
Next up, calendar 387322, Gaston and Kristen Halpert, 47 Cedar Street in Millburn. Who's eligible?
Amy, Joe, Steve, Wolfgang, Chandru, Craig.
Any corrections or changes to that set of minutes? Sorry, memorialization. I want to keep doing the 4 minutes thing. Then in that case, can I have a motion to adopt that memorialization?
I move to approve calendar 3873.
A second?
A second.
Amy Lawrence,
Yes.
Joseph Steinberg,
yes,
Steve Toger,
Yes.
Wolfgang Torres,
Yes.
Chandru Harjani,
Yes.
Craig Plantner.
Yes. Lastly, we have calendar 387622, Dryola LLC, 150 Essex Street in Millburn. Who's eligible?
Amy, Steve, Wolfgang, Chandru, Ashley.
Any corrections or changes to that memorialization? I have a motion to adopt that memorialization.
I move we adopt.
Steve, second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ashley.
Amy Lawrence,
Yes.
Steve Toger,
Yes.
Wolfgang Torres,
Yes.
Chandru Harjani,
Yes.
Ashley Avigdor.
Yes.
Okay. We'll start our applications with calendar 386222, T-Mobile Northeast, 150 JFK Parkway in Short Hills. This matter was carried from June 6, 2022. If you could please mute yourselves, because I'm getting feedback. Thank you.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Frank Ferraro, firm with Ferraro and Stamas, on behalf of the applicant T-Mobile Northeast LLC.
Good morning, good evening, Mr. Farrar. Do you have anyone else you'd like to bring over?
Yes, we do have 3 witnesses. We have our professional engineer, Joshua Cottrell, our radio frequency engineer, which is Francis Bisholti, and our professional planner, Timothy Kronk.
Okay.
I believe they're all here. Yes, looks like we have everybody, Mr. Chairman.
Great. Okay, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. So briefly, this is an application that stems from a zoning permit denial that was issued back on February 9th of this year. T-Mobile in this application is seeking to upgrade an existing rooftop telecommunication facility located at 150 JFK Parkway. It's in the OR3 zone. Currently, T-Mobile has 5 antennas on the building rooftop. The site came on air in February of 1998 and it has been active since that time. T-Mobile is seeking to upgrade or modify that existing facility in order to provide additional service capacity and coverage to this area of Millburn. We had filed the application in two parts. One part is an appeal, one part is in the alternative use variance, height variance, and site plan relief. In discussing this with Mr. Simon, we wanted to present the use variance, height variance, and site plan approval first. And then if the board acted favorably upon that, then the appeal would just become moot and we wouldn't have to deal with that. So I'm going to try to be as efficient as possible as I can with three witnesses, given the fact that the site has been up for the last 24 years. And like I said, the use variance application, we do have a D1 use variance because wireless telecommunications are not permitted in any zone, including the OR3. We do have a height variance, which is a D6 variety. 60 foot is the maximum permitted in the zone. The existing antennas on that building rooftop belonging to T-Mobile are currently 77 feet from grade. After the proposed modification, if approved, they would actually be lowered to 70 feet. So that's the nature of the height variance. The existing building right now is 55 feet tall. And then finally, we need relief from the fact that there are two principal uses on this existing building. Quickly, by way of background, we don't know why there is no prior board resolution for this facility. It's just been around for so long, 24 years. We were able to uncover prior upgrade permits that were issued to the building department, but nothing demonstrating that was a review done by this board. So we're hoping to rectify that tonight.
I appreciate that.
Sure.
So why don't you move forward with your first witness and we'll go from there.
Very well. Our first witness will be Mr. Cottrell, who is our professional engineer.
Great. So we're going to swear you in, and also if you please could give us your credentials. So Mr. Fishman will swear you in.
Okay, if you just raise your right hand, do you swear from the testimony you're about to give tonight to be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Your name for the record, spelling your name, please.
It's Joshua Cottrell, Cottrell.
Mr. Cottrell, could you please review your background and qualifications for the board and public?
Sure, I have a bachelor's science and civil engineering from Rutgers University. I have approximately 18 years experience. Last 15 years specifically geared towards wireless communications. I've testified throughout before numerous boards throughout New Jersey. I do hold a valid New Jersey engineering professional license. I don't think I've ever testified before this board, although many before.
Mr.
And
Kim,
your
Mr.
license is
Simon?
in good standing?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. The board accepts your credentials.
Okay. If I may ask counsel before we begin, all the exhibits we're going to show, or I should say all of them except one, were submitted in advance. Would you like me to mark them as we go?
Frank, I don't think that's necessary. Just for the one that you haven't submitted before, if you can mark that one at the appropriate.
Thank you.
And but obviously just referring to it by what the document is in date.
Perfect. Okay. So Mr. Cottrell, first we're going to review the site plans that were prepared by your firm. The site plans, if you can share your screen and provide the last revision date.
Sure. Okay, I have the set of plans up here that were last revised February 22nd, 2022. And this should be the set of plans that was submitted to the board.
Okay, and these plans were either prepared by you or under your supervision, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, just referring to the sheet number as you testify, could you please go over the existing conditions as well as the proposed modification?
Sure, I'm just gonna go to the second sheet in the set. It's A-01, which is the roof plan. So essentially, T-Mobile currently has 5 antennas installed on this roof. And they're kind of centrally located on the roof in this little mechanical area here. And that consists of 5 antennas with a maximum antenna height of 77 feet above grade. Currently, they also have installed a steel platform with 2 equipment cabinets within this mechanical screening area, which is in the western portion of the roof. And then there's also antennas by other carriers up here. So just to go So what they're proposing to do is they're going to remove, I believe they're going to remove 2 of these antennas that are currently installed, and they're going to relocate 3 of the existing antennas, as well as add 6 additional antennas for a total count of 9 antennas. And they're going to be adding all the 9 antennas to this mechanically screened area here. So I'm just going to move to the next sheet, which is 8.
Josh, before you move on,
Yes.
are all the antennas here, or do we also have an alpha sector on the right-hand side of the plan?
Yes, you're right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So 3 of the antennas are going to go in this alpha sector in the northeastern portion of the roof.
And you're showing the setback distances from the antennas to the roof edge on these plans?
That's correct. So the closest is this beta sector, which is about 26.5 feet from the edge of the roof. The alpha sector is about 26 foot 9 inches, and the gamma sector is about 30 foot 8 inches.
And then you have an elevation view of the proposed modification as well?
I do. So I'll just jump over to the elevation, which is sheet A-04. So as you can see, the existing antennas are detailed in this dashed line here. And as you can see, the top of the existing antennas is 77 feet. These are the antennas that are being removed or relocated. Over here on the left side of the sheet shows the elevation of the proposed, and you can see the top of the highest antenna will be at 70 feet. So it's a 7-foot reduction in height.
One quick thing, you currently show, you said you currently have how many up there right now?
5 antennas.
5 antennas and then 5 TMAs, correct?
Yeah, TMAs are small pieces of equipment that get installed behind the antennas.
Okay. I just wasn't sure there's 10 antennas the way I was reading the application. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Then also proposed behind the proposed antennas, we're also adding remote radio units. I believe there are 6 of those, 2 in each sector. And those, again, so it's just a piece of equipment that gets mounted behind the antenna. Those are represented by this little rectangle and the blow-ups here. You can see there's 2 in each sector.
Which sheet are you referring to?
Oh, I just moved up to sheet A-03.
Okay.
It just shows a large view of the antenna installations. Starting from the left is alpha sector, which shows the 2 new antennas and the 1 existing antenna that's being moved over to a new mount. And then so behind the first antenna and the third antenna, there's going to be an RRU behind that. And that's typical for each sector.
Okay, and then are there changes proposed to the existing equipment area?
There are, so I'm going to move back to sheet, I think A-02. A-02 on the left shows the equipment area and a large view of the equipment area, where currently there's 2. This drawing doesn't show the existing, but removing one of the equipment cabinets and these square gray shaded cabinets will be installed. So we're removing 1, installing 2 in its place.
Josh, can you just describe the difference in the dimensions of the equipment that you're removing versus installing? Is it similar or?
It's similar. So the existing cabinet, I don't think we show a detail of the existing, but you can see the proposed cabinets are a little bit larger than 2 by 2 feet, where the existing is probably more like 2 by 4 feet, maybe a little less, but it's a similar footprint.
Thank you.
And Josh, there's no expansion of the existing compound platform proposed in this modification, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And regarding the modification overall, is there any disturbance at grade proposed?
At grade, no. Everything's limited to the rooftop.
Okay, so no additional impervious coverage being proposed?
Correct.
Will this upgrade require any additional site visits over and above what currently happens?
No, it'll be operated and maintained very similar to as it is now.
And will the modification result in any noise, dust, glare, smoke, vibration, or other nuisance?
No,
From a structural standpoint, can the building accommodate this modification?
yes, it can.
And in your opinion, as a professional engineer, are there any other site plan issues associated with this modification?
I don't see any, no.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, unless there's questions of the board with respect to the plans, that pretty much concludes our direct on this.
Right, you can discontinue sharing if you could. Mr. Cottrell, thank you. Any questions from the board for this professional?
Can I ask just one question? Greg?
Yeah.
Josh, with regard to sound impacts, is there going to be any difference with the new equipment versus the old equipment, whether it's fans, motors, generators, and the like?
No, it'll be very similar since they're right grouped in together. They're not spread out between the roofs, so there's going to be no additional noticeable sound increase.
Thank you.
And no generator associated with this upgrade, is that correct?
Correct.
So no questions from, let's go ahead, Wolfgang.
Just one question. So the only height issues really are the antennae themselves. It's not anything having to do with the new cabinets that are being put in?
I believe the cabinets will be above, I don't have the exact height of the cabinets, but I believe they will be above the 60 feet.
And how will they be positioned? I mean, like versus how are they again, size wise versus what's there now?
Very similar. Maybe a few square foot increase, but the square footage of the equipment platform that they sit on will have no change to it.
Okay.
And they're also located behind a mechanical screen, is that correct, Josh?
Yes, they're totally behind the mechanical screen. They're not visible from, and you'll see photo sims that'll show you that they're not visible.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board? Any questions from the audience, Mr. Cottrell? I did not see any, so Mr. Ferraro, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. That brings us to our next witness, who is our radio frequency engineer, Francis Bisciotti.
Ms. Bisciotti, would you please, we're going to be sworn in and then give us your qualifications.
If you would just please raise your right hand. Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give tonight to be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Your name for the record, just spelling your name, please.
Francis Buschulte, Boschulte.
And Ms. Bisciotti, could you please review your background and qualifications?
Yes, I have a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering. I'm employed by Pericon Solutions, and I've worked as a radio frequency engineer for over 15 years. And I've testified before many boards throughout the state of New York and New Jersey. I have not testified before this board.
And you have been accepted by those boards as an expert in both radio frequency emissions and radio frequency engineering?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. And Mr. Ferraro, go ahead.
So Ms. Bisciotti, your firm prepared a couple of reports that were submitted to the town, correct?
That's correct.
The first report is entitled Independent Radio Frequency Report regarding a proposed wireless communications facility for T-Mobile Northeast LLC, dated May 25th, 2002. I'm just going to hold that up to my screen if hopefully you can see it. And
Yes.
that is not working, but
No, it's very blurry.
all right. But did you submit a report entitled with that title and dated May 25th, 2022?
I did.
Okay. And then did your firm also prepare a report entitled Evaluation of the Radio Frequency Environment in the vicinity of the proposed NJ 06261B wireless facility, also dated May 25th, 2002?
Yes.
And were these reports either prepared by you or under your supervision?
Prepared by me.
Okay. So there's a lot of information in these reports and exhibits. Could you give us an overview of the radio frequency need for this particular existing facility modification?
Yes. T-Mobile is licensed in several frequency bands. Right now, the existing site currently has the mid to high band, which is the 2100 megahertz and the 1900 megahertz. Basically, the upgrade will provide T-Mobile with a larger coverage footprint by deploying the lower frequency bands, which is the 600 and 700. It'll also assist them in adding additional capacity to the site. In my RF report, there are a couple exhibits. One in particular is the coverage plot between the 2100 megahertz and the 7100 megahertz. You'll see that there is a substantial increase in coverage footprint, which will be beneficial to T-Mobile's customers. And then I also have some capacity charts that show between January and May, there's an increase in usage from 50% to 70%. So it's not surprising that T-Mobile is looking to add the additional licensed frequency bands to the site. It'll help balance the traffic in the area and expand the coverage footprint.
Okay. And are these reports, or I should say, are these exhibits, both the capacity and coverage chart, based upon an antenna height of 70 feet?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and in your professional opinion, is that the minimum height necessary in order
Yep.
to address this area of deficient service?
Yes, it is.
And based upon the exhibits that you prepared and the analysis that you have done, do you believe that T-Mobile has an area of deficient service that needs to be addressed by this modification?
Yes, I do.
Mr. Chairman, we have those specific charts in the report that Ms. Bisciotti can bring up if the board would like to see them. Otherwise, I would ask her to just review the radio frequency emissions aspect of the application.
Let's continue with her testimony.
Okay, so Ms. Bisciotti, you also prepared a radio frequency emissions analysis of the subject modification, is that correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and could you please share the methodology and the results of that particular report?
The methodology is taking into account T-Mobile's proposed installations, worst case scenario and full operation at their maximum FCC allowed power. I also took into account worst case scenario for AT&T and Verizon that shares the rooftop space. And the calculations for general public is 13%, which is 13% of the FCC's maximum permissible exposure limit for general public, 100% being the maximum level. And for New Jersey is 2.6% for the maximum permissible exposure limit for general public. So both percentages are below the limit, and the site will be in compliance.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes our direct, unless there's additional questions or requests for additional documentation, or Ms. Bisciotti to review additional exhibits in her report.
Anyone on the board have questions for Ms. Bisciotti?
Yes, ask.
Good.
Ms. Bisciotti, good seeing you, as
Good to
always.
see you, Mr. Simon.
Just a quick question. With regard to the antennas, if they were on the rooftop lowered somewhat so that they wouldn't be as visible as they are in the proposed photo simulations, would that impact the coverage or capacity that you're proposing and showing in your radio frequency reports?
So it would impact the coverage. Right now, the original height was 77 feet in the center. And right now, closer to the edge, they are able to lower that height, but it's still a substantial different distance away from the roof edge. So in order for the antenna pattern to clear the roof edge, they have raised it to the minimum height. So it also takes into account the down tilt factor that is proposed in the design.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Any questions from the audience for this witness? Don't see any. I do not see any. So, Mr. Ferraro, please continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That brings us to our final witness, Timothy Kronk, who is our professional planner.
Okay.
Sorry,
if you-
Mr. Cronk.
Do you swear from testimony about to give tonight to be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Your name and spelling your name for the record, please.
Timothy M. Kronk, Kronk.
Mr. Kronk, could you review your background qualifications for the board and public?
Certainly. I have a Bachelor of Science from the University of Massachusetts. I have 25 years of land use experience, predominantly in New Jersey. I am a New Jersey licensed professional planner and an AICP certified planner. I have testified throughout the state and been accepted as an expert in the area of land use planning, including this board, but I haven't been here in a few years.
And is your certification currently in good standing?
Yes, all my licenses are currently valid.
Thank you very much. Your qualifications are accepted. Please proceed.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Kronk, could you please identify some of the materials that you reviewed in preparation for your testimony?
Yes, I did review the site plans prepared by French and Perillo. I did review the master plan. I did review the zoning ordinance with specific attention to the OR3 zone. I did visit the site on May 3rd when the photographs were taken for the purpose of preparing the photo simulations. I did review the application and I did review the permits that were provided by T-Mobile for some of the other prior upgrades that were, I should say, building permits, not zoning permits.
Thank you. And this particular application we're presenting is for D1 use variance, a D6 height variance, as well as a variance for two principal uses at the subject property. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. We do require the D1 use variance since the wireless telecommunications use is not permitted in the O3 office research zone. And the D6 height variance is required for the proposed antenna height of 70 feet, where the O3 zone permits a maximum height of 60 feet, although the existing penthouse is 70 feet, so we will not be exceeding the highest elevation on the existing rooftop.
Okay. And will the proposed modification bring the existing non-conforming height more in conformity with the ordinance requirements?
Yes, that's one of the very interesting things about this application. The current installation on the rooftop to the top of the T-Mobile antennas is 77 feet. And the proposal we have in front of the board this evening is actually to reduce that antenna height from the 77 feet existing down to a maximum of 70 feet top of antenna, which does match the height of the existing penthouse on the building.
Okay, thank you. Could you please share your planning analysis of this particular application with the board and public?
Yes, as was stated, we do require the D1, D6 use and height variances. So this application is evaluated using the four-step SECA analysis. In that analysis, we identify the public interest at stake. Second, determine what detrimental effects could ensue from the grant of the variance. Third, impose reasonable conditions to help ameliorate the negative impacts of those applications. And fourth, perform the actual balancing test between the positive and negative aspects of the application. Under the public interest at stake, T-Mobile is a licensed FCC provider of wireless telecommunications in this portion of New Jersey. The New Jersey Supreme Court has held the fact that the carrier does possess this requisite FCC license, but that would generally suffice in proving that the carrier does promote the general welfare through enhanced telecommunication services. But what needs to be done on each site is to prove the particular suitability of the chosen location. A large portion of the suitability in wireless telecommunications does come down to the RF testimony that we just heard from Francis. It's that testimony that I rely on to say that, this location and at this height will address the coverage deficiencies that T-Mobile doesn't really have right now, but would if the site was if the site wasn't there. So based upon her testimony that this location and this height would address any coverage deficiencies that T-Mobile would have if the site had not been existing for the last 20 plus years. The site is also particularly suited from the fact that we have an existing structure, and not just an existing structure, an existing tall structure that provides adequate height that we can meet those coverage objectives that she addressed in her testimony. Also, this site will be in complete compliance with all FCC and DEP standards for the emissions of radio energy, as was provided in her report. And also, this is a co-location. As the board is aware, there's other carriers on this roof, and co-location certainly is an objective of the wireless carriers, the FCC, and from a planning community. So for those reasons, I do believe the site is particularly suited, and thus combined with the promotion of the general welfare, we do meet the positive criteria for the grant of the D1, D6 height variances. With regard to the second step of the SECA analysis, that's where we address the negative impacts of the proposed application. Primarily, this is a benign commercial use. It has none of the traditional negative impacts that you would normally hear associated with land development. There is no noise, no glare, no odor, no vibration, no noxious characteristics. This is an unmanned facility. There are no municipal utilities required, only electric and telephone. Those are brought in directly by the carrier. Water and sewer are not required. The site will only be visited by a maintenance technician for T-Mobile approximately once every 4 to 6 weeks. This is an installation that has no impact on traffic or on parking. The primary negative impact associated with this type of use comes down to the visibility. In this case, we did prepare photo simulations to present to the board to what the existing past installation as well as the proposed modifications would look like. As I mentioned, these photos, existing conditions photos, were taken on May 3rd of this year, and those photos do accurately depict the existing conditions at that time. Also, is it okay to share my screen?
Sure.
Does everybody see me? Photos?
Yes.
Got it.
Hey, Tim, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Can you just verify, or you and/or Frank, that the photo simulation that you're showing and are going to show, because I see 8 slides there, they've all been previously provided to the board?
Okay, so when Mr. Ferraro referenced that in the beginning of one modification, these photos and the simulation are exactly as submitted before. We did paint the antennas in the after black to match the other carrier's antennas. So that is the one modification we've made. So this should be should be considered a new exhibit then.
Yeah,
Yes.
I would
Okay.
recommend that.
Yes.
So if we're going to mark this as A1, it's going to be photo simulation for application. Do we have a date approximately when it was created?
The original photos are the same. They're the May 3rd. The modification to change the color, we could say it was this week.
Okay, so you want to say July 12th, 13th?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, July 13th, we'll date it.
Okay.
Thank you.
So yes, this will correspond directly to what the board members had in their application package. Only in the after, you'll see that we determined that we thought it was a better solution to paint the antennas to match the other carrier up there that has black antennas. First photo location is an existing conditions photo. This is taken from JFK Parkway, right by the entrance or the entrance exit from the New Jersey American Water Company. And from this location, you primarily just see the tops of the antennas coming over the penthouse. And then if we go to the photo simulation, in the photo simulation, you will see this is where the 3 T-Mobile antennas are proposed in the sector to be reduced in height, but moved out to the edge of the building. Next photo location. This is a view from over It's actually by the Bloomingdale's entrance. It's that section of access road between JFK and Finneran. Really wasn't sure if it was the name of it. So but this is the location. It's right by the Bloomingdale's entrance. I figured everybody knew where that one was. So this is the existing conditions photo with primarily a T-Mobile antennas visible in the middle on the penthouse. We have one of the other carriers' black pair of antennas visible on the right. And then when we go to the photo simulation, you'll see everything in the middle disappears. And then the T-Mobile 2 sectors with the black antennas have been added in this view.
And when installed, will the antennas actually be black?
If that's certainly if the board wants that as a condition. We just thought it made sense when we looked at the simulations again and saw that there was a carrier up there with black. It just made sense to match it. So yes, if it's a condition of approval, they would definitely be painted black.
They've been installed black color, right?
Yes, they have. I mean, they don't come from the manufacturer, but we can paint them. Yes.
Yeah.
What's the manufactured color?
It's kind of a beigeish gray.
It's an off-white. We have the photo sims that were provided to the
Yes.
board in their packet. Show the antennas that off-white color, which can be done too if the board prefer. Yeah. Well, maybe we'll bring those up real quick after this, Tim, to show everybody.
Okay. Next photo location. This is just across JFK Parkway, across from the 150 Parkway entrance. Existing conditions, antennas visible in 2 spots for T-Mobile. Actually, the color of those antennas is similar to what they would come from the manufacturer, unpainted. And then the photo simulation where we remove the antennas that were visible here and install the new sector closer to the edge of the building. And last pair of photos. This one is from Finneran Way by the Upton entrance. Existing carrier black antennas visible in the middle. T-Mobile's you can just see over the edge in the back. And then on the existing conditions, then the photo simulation, we pull the antennas off the penthouse and move them to the edge. And in that case, they're with the black painting as proposed.
And Tim, could you bring up the other photo sims real quick just to see?
Yeah,
so the board can see the difference.
I can try that.
So Frank, you're having Tim show the photo sims that were submitted to the board?
Correct. If the board wants to, I don't know if everyone has it readily in front of them.
Yeah, hold on.
Give me 1 second. Okay, let me just look real quick and make sure I got the right ones. Yep, these look like the right ones. Okay, same photo location, New Jersey American Water entrance. And here's a simulation with the existing color of the manufactured antennas shown. The Bloomingdale's entrance with the existing manufactured color, beigeish, whitish, gray shown. This is the other side of JFK Parkway. Same thing. We have the existing photo here, and then the computer simulation with the whitish gray color, and then the last location on Finneran with the same antenna locations with just the manufacturer's color and not the black.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Chairman, either of those colors could be provided with it, whichever one the board finds more palatable.
I'll defer to the board at that time.
Okay.
No.
Mr. Kronk, do you have additional testimony?
Yes, under the third step of the SEEK analysis for the board to impose reasonable conditions to help ameliorate the negative impacts of the application. As we just discussed, we're amenable to have whatever color the board would like. You will notice in those photos, nowhere did we see the T-Mobile equipment that the engineer described earlier. It's centrally located and behind in panels. So even those modifications to put smaller cabinets in place there have no impact on the visibility associated with the application. We perform the actual balancing test. We are balancing the promotion of general welfare through enhanced telecommunication services against the negative impacts of the application, primarily the visibility that you saw in the photo simulations. And when you perform that analysis, the analysis is not whether or not the antennas are visible. The analysis is, are they visible to a point of rising to the level of a substantial detriment? And I certainly believe the board will find that this visibility associated with this installation does not rise to the level of a substantial detriment. I do believe the board can grant this variance without a substantial impairment to the zone plan or zoning ordinance. Boy, if there was ever a case study in being able to analyze a use that's been there for 20 years and whether it had an impact on the zone plan or zoning ordinance, this certainly would have been one. And I certainly do not believe there has been any negative impairment to zone plan or zoning ordinance of the existing installation. And this use is that is proposed now is the same one that's been there for that time frame. I think that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Kronk.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, questions, Mr. Kronk, regarding his testimony?
Anyone from the board have questions for Mr. Kronk?
I have a question. Do you know, was any, were you able to access the roof of the Upton and sort of gauge or determine what impact these changes might have on the tenants that it's visible to, which I think is only, I don't know how many floors from the top we're talking about, but could you just give us some evidence on that, please?
No, I did not access the, any of the units of the Upton. From a planning perspective, it's usually considered that assessing impacts from a public right-of-way is the way that planners, do provide this type of analysis. I think, these photos were all taken from, very close proximity to this building. So I think you can kind of get a feel of the difference between the existing and the proposed. It's obviously it'd be a little higher, but I think it's still a representative view from, the surrounding roadways. It's not.
Okay, thank you.
It's not, I don't want to say the Upton's not twice as high looking down. It's really, a similar plane. So.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Kronk? Then I'll open up to the audience. Any questions for this witness? I do not see any. So, Mr. Ferraro, how would you like to proceed?
Mr. Chairman, that concludes our direct on this particular application. I'm going to rely on the expert testimony provided by our three witnesses, and we would respectfully ask the board to approve this application based upon same. So thank you.
Thank you much. And in that case, any comments from the audience regarding this case? I do not see any, so I will close the public portion of this meeting. Board members, what say you? Rob?
So before the board deliberates, just to remind the board with regard to these types of applications, and we actually have another one later tonight regarding wireless communications. There are a couple of things to keep in mind, that even though Mr. Ferraro didn't touch on it and actually took the much more conservative view that he should be commended for, which is to make an application for a D1, a D6 use variance or forms of use variance that requires 5 affirmative votes. The reality is that based on federal law and based on state law as well, there is a provision to talk about the fact that local governments actually shall approve eligible facilities requesting modifications of existing facilities. And, certainly this is a modification of existing facilities. The problem that we had here was that we, could not find the memorializing resolution, and none was ever provided to us regarding the original approvals to see what they're basically modifying from in terms of what was approved by the board. And second of all, as was stated by Mr. Kronk, Mr. Ferraro, the use is not permitted in the zone. So I think the applicant should be commended, like I said, for providing the proofs. And I believe the proofs they did provide with regard to positive and negative criteria. And I think Mr. Kronk did an excellent job of summarizing what's needed, both on the positive criteria with regard to particular suitability, as well as the negative criteria and the four-part SECA balancing test. I don't need to repeat all of the standards that the board needs to review, but I think he, looked at them, whether it's the public interest at stake, and looking at the negatives, and then seeing if any of the negatives can be ameliorated with any conditions of approval, and then engaging in a balancing test, as Mr. Kronk set forth. And certainly in his testimony, he was relying on Mr. Schulte's testimony and Mr. Cottrell's testimony with regard to the facility, where it's going to be located, and that there is a need for the facility based on the fact that currently, according to Mr. Schulte's testimony, while the carrier is providing coverage at the higher frequencies, it's not providing coverage at the lower frequencies. And there's also an allegation that there's a capacity issue which has not been refuted by anything that's before this board. With that, unlike and I think actually for purposes of this application, because it's a co-location on a rooftop, I would recommend that the D6 be subsumed into the D1 variance. I'm going to remind the board that a D1 variance requires 5 affirmative votes and should take into consideration the expert testimony presented by all the witnesses, none of which has been refuted to date. Thank you.
So essentially, Rob, we're looking here at 2 variances, because the one being the appeal would be kind of null and void in the event.
Well, yeah, so the appeal was only in the alternative. And as Mr. Ferraro appropriately stated, that we don't get to the appeal unless actually the application for the use variance is technically denied. So we don't get to that. There was also a request for, basically having more than one use on a lot, because this is a second use and it's not accessory to the principal use. But again, I believe that for the similar reasons that were stated earlier, that can be subsumed into the D1 use variance.
Thank you. So any comments from the board, even like pertaining to the color of these antennas? Any thoughts on that? I mean, I'm a fan of the white myself, or the OE color, shall we say?
Yeah, I can, having been around the block a couple of times with wireless applications, I can tell you that I think generally the way boards look at the color, I think lighter is better, kind of blending into the sky,
right,
et cetera. But that's up to the board.
Right. So that's being that is sort of open for discussion here and been offered to us. I think we should take up the applicant on that. So unless, I'd like to hear everyone's opinion on that, but like I said, I'm more of a fan of the OE color than painting them black, but I'm open to anyone's thought on that. And of course, anything other regarding the variances sought.
I would echo that sentiment as well. I mean,
Yep,
well,
me too.
that's not really intrusive one way or the other, but to have it, to make it as unintrusive as possible, that would be the way to do it.
Okay.
I agree with Wolfgang and with you, Craig.
Thanks, Steve.
I do as well as to the color.
I do too. I'm going back to mute.
I do as well.
Thank you, Joe.
I do as well, and I think that the applicant has met all of the proofs, as Rob has said.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of look at this as a retrofit, more than, as Rob eloquently stated regarding the way the application has been constructed. But in general, I kind of look at this as a retrofit, and yes, they are being lowered slightly, but made into a more prominent location. So a little bit of, back and forth on the trade-off there, but in general, I don't have an issue with this. And like I said, keeping the OE color, assuming the original equipment color is that white beige, I'd move forward supporting this application. Anyone's thoughts? Then in that case, we'll break it down first. Should we split it, Rob? D1 first?
I don't know if you need to split it unless Mr.
Yeah.
Ferraro would like it to be split. I think that based on the way the testimony was brought in, I mean, I think we can just,
Move forward with.
take a vote as to the use variance, but that's up to you, Frank.
I would agree with that, Mr. Simon. I have no objections to a vote on the D1 use variance with the other variances being subsumed in that vote.
Very well, then who would like to make a motion and specifying the original equipment color as a condition?
You would say
So
equipment,
I'll
we're just
make
talking, can I be clear, just for the resolution purposes, if we get that far? The beige color is just for the antennas, or is it for the equipment as well?
It's for the antennas, right?
Yeah, I mean, what color is the equipment?
It's like gray, but it's behind a fence too.
Right.
I just wanted to be clear. That's
So let's just go with the antenna being the original equipment color, assuming that it's beige or white or a hue in that family. So Wolfgang.
So I move approval of application calendar number 3862-22 with the stipulation that the antennae be the original equipment color, being in the hue of the white to beige variety.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second that.
Thank you, Steve.
Amy Lawrence,
Yes.
Joseph Steinberg,
Yes.
Steve Toger,
Yes.
Wolfgang Tatoris,
Yes.
Chandru Harjani,
Yes.
Jessica Glatt,
Yes.
Craig Plaitner.
Yes. Good luck with the project.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your time. Appreciate it. Have a good night.
Two. Next up, we have calendar 387222, Thomas and Ann McCarthy. This matter was carried from June 6th. So.
Greg, I wasn't here for the meeting on the 6th, so I'm not eligible to vote on this. Do I still stay on for this, or do I leave and then come back when it's?
I would suggest that you leave.
Yeah, you're
and come
recusing,
back.
so, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll let you know when
sorry.
we're back. Good evening, Ms. Paseo. How are you? Christine, you there?
Yes, I am.
Oh, sorry. How are you?
Good, good.
Good. Is everyone brought over that you need brought over?
I believe so. Mr. McCarthy is on and I am on.
Great. Then how would you like to proceed?
I would like it. I'd like to go over the changes in the drawings that you received in updated packets. We dramatically reduced the addition. If you'd like, I can share my screen and go over the, if that works for you.
Christine, can you just identify the plans in terms of the different dates?
Yes.
Just to make sure that
Updated
there's,
drawings are dated June 30th, 2022. And they are, it's in the middle of the page where I sign my name is the new date. If I
Right.
share my screen, I can show you exactly.
that would be great. And then the updated plan still consists of A1 and A2.
Yes. Let me just pull those out for you. They are an A1 with site plan photos and area map, and then another A1, and the date is right here where my cursor is pointing. And that would be on A1, and then the same on A2, right where my cursor is pointing, is the new date.
When you're talking about A1 and A2, you're referring to the plan sheet.
Elevations and the floor plan.
What would be helpful to the board is if you could maybe start to go over the differences in terms of the relief that you're requesting between the application is submitted and
that is what I was going to start with. And would it be helpful if I put the two zoning tables side to side?
Sure.
So you can see what was and what is different.
That's fine.
Okay. Give me 1 second. This silly sharing thing is in the way of me getting my drawings. I don't know if I can move that. There we go. The zoning table to the right is the updated zoning table. And what I can do is I can go over the numbers with you in terms of my floor area ratio, my setbacks. We have changed and we don't need a couple variances. One of the variances we required was a left side variance. We changed that to 12 feet 4 inches, and I'm trying to get this to cooperate. There we go. So you can see both at once. Thought that would be much easier than it is. I'm sorry.
Why don't we just go to the new, let's go to the new numbers.
Craig, can I make a suggestion?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can we let me just run through with you the variances and you can tell me if they are still needed or if they've been exacerbated, reduced, or eliminated.
Fine.
Okay, so the first thing we had was additional side yard setback over 18 feet in height.
The left side is no longer needed. It's existing non-conforming, but the addition does not need a variance.
On the left side.
On the left side.
What about the right side?
The right side is existing and that does not change.
That's the 9.16 feet.
Yes.
Okay. How about combined side yard setback?
Side yard, combined side yard setback no longer needs a variance.
And is that because the combined side yard setback is at 35% or greater?
Yes, it is.
What is it at now?
It's exactly 35%.
Okay. And what about FAR?
FAR went down to 43.7%. from
I
the
apol-
53,
I apologize. What is it now? 40 what?
43.7.
Okay, so this is the maximum permitted is 36%. You
Correct.
originally for the last time we were together for your application, you were at 53.3%, and you've now reduced the FAR to 43.7%. So a 7.7% deviation still.
Yes,
And your total square footage is 2249?
correct.
Okay.
And then
What about
also,
rear yard unoccupied?
we do not need a variance for that anymore. I was a little uncertain how that was to be figured, and I confirmed it with Ms. Davitt, and we are at 28.8%. We're 1482 square feet. So we do not need a variance for rear yard unoccupied.
Okay. And what about front yard setback?
Front yard setback, we still need that bulk variance. We're existing non-conforming and we're adding a front porch also.
Okay, so right now you need a variance for that 9.16 feet, which is an existing condition. You need a variance, D variance for FAR 43.7% versus 36% maximum. And you need the front yard setback.
And we also need a building coverage variance it's 25.3% and 23% is allowed.
23% is allowed. And what's the proposal?
25.3.
Now, that was not on the original chart. Was that?
Was that noticed?
Yeah.
Yes, it was. It was noticed a second time. Yes, it was. It wasn't noticed the first time, and we re-noticed.
Okay. So
Thank you.
So why don't you take us through the general drawings where you nipped and tucked
Sure.
and what you did.
Okay. This is the old one. Hold on 1 second. I get the latest drawings. Now, one of the main things we did, if you go to page A2 to the floor plans, you'll see that originally we had a 6-foot addition to the rear of the house. Now we are stopping the addition or their lack of addition at the existing sunroom. And we are just, and it is a cantilever condition. And we are just expanding that cantilever condition for the whole length of the kitchen. And what we did is instead of having a kitchen out the back, we're utilizing the existing kitchen and dining room. We took the wall out. We no longer have a formal dining room. The dining room has become part of the kitchen, and that saves us 6 feet to the rear. That 6 feet to the rear was the difference between a rear yard unoccupied variance and also a bulk of the square footage. The other thing we did is we pushed back the deck and covered porch. So now the deck is in new land area, but the covered porch is over a part of the existing first floor. And then the only other small addition on the first floor that we added was a little piece of mudroom. The existing house ended here, and there really was no mudroom. There was just a door up into this tiny 4x3 area or 4x4 area. So what we did is we're adding 39 inches by about 7.5 feet to get some cubbies and a small closet. So in essence, we took out this part of the house, added this small piece and this small piece on the first floor. The other piece that we're adding, and I don't know how to make you guys smaller, there we go, is the porch in front. That did not change. On the second floor, what we did is we basically reworked all the bedrooms and we made them much, much smaller. And then we pushed this middle bedroom into the front bedroom area and then ended at the end of the kitchen and pushed the master bedroom into what was the rear bedroom. So this piece right here is the addition off the rear, and then a part of the bathroom area is addition right over what would be the covered porch and the mudroom. So we made the house considerably smaller. From the front, it looks virtually identical. If you look at my A1, you'll see that we still have the front porch in front and the new portico, but the rear, this is existing house, all of this is existing, which was an existing cantilever, and all we're doing is building above existing. And you can see on the right side elevation that this is the existing, it was a porch sunroom, little den in the back that we are incorporating the kitchen in and putting the master bedroom above. And then in that same area that was a part of the kitchen, we're making the screen porch. And then this is a part of the master bedroom. And just this little piece here is for the mudroom. I know that 43.3% still sounds like a lot. I was able to go through tax records and areas of floor areas of the different houses. And I just wanted to go over with you what adjacent homes within the 200-foot radius map, their square footage is.
One quick thing before you do that, could you go back to the drawing of the home and tell me about the shed dormer that's on that like is a third floor?
Yeah, there's let me just find that drawing. That's the old one. Give me 1 second. We do have a small area that is existing attic, and it's very, very low. And what we would be doing is just putting a small playroom up in the attic. It won't have a bathroom or any amenities at this point. It just is going to be a playroom, because with losing this room on the first floor, which was the kids' playroom, and then also losing the dining room, so all the toys and whatnot aren't necessarily all the time in the living room, that a play area could be made upstairs in the rear area.
Okay, please continue.
That area would be less than 30% of the second floor. It's really just going to be an area right over the master, and then there's a thin area right in the middle of the existing. So it's a very, very small attic area now, really just a small storage area that we wanted to just push to be able to have a play area. And that area is minimal and wouldn't count in the floor area rate.
Christine, you're saying that it does not count as part of
It
FAR?
does not.
Okay, please continue where you're going.
Okay. Let's see if this will come up again now. I'm sorry, I have to just go back and get this. What I did is I made a chart,
Okay, hold on a second.
and this is nothing that you have, so this I guess would be A1.
Hold on. No. A1 was 5 photos that you submitted.
Okay,
So this is A2.
okay,
So what I want you to do is describe what A2 is. You're gonna have to provide all the exhibits to Eileen at the end of the hearing.
yes,
And I see you have numbers which I'm guessing reflect FAR.
yes,
And you're gonna have to explain to the board how you perform the calculation and how do you know that your calculation is an apples to apples comparison.
okay. This is a copy of the original 200-foot radius map that I received from the town when I applied for the list of property owners. And what I did is I went online on various sites to get lot areas and buildings. And I also went around to verify whether the house had 1-car garage or 2-car garage. And what I did is I looked up the, can you hear me? All of a sudden it looked like it went blank.
I can hear you, but I'll be honest with you, this is incredibly subjective. And what you're basically doing here is using zoning violation to justify more zoning violation. So I'm not really sure this is material.
That isn't at all what I'm getting at. There was a question
Well, what are
last
these
meeting.
sites then that you're going to? Like, there has to be more detail than this than just say I went to a bunch of websites and now I arbitrarily calculated FAR.
Well, there's a number of different websites that give you the square footage of the house. And one example of me checking it is I looked up the subject property. The square footage of the lot was right on in the website, and the house was within 5 square feet of when I measured it. And then
How did you measure the house?
I physically measured the subject house.
No, I'm talking about these ones here.
No. What I'm saying is I used the subject house as an example to see the validity of the numbers that I was getting. And the reason I'm got this, not that I'm necessarily saying, look, everybody else is over, but there was a comment last month that we had said a lot of the houses in the neighborhood had fairly substantial additions. And I thought, or I believe somebody on the board had said, well, do you have the sizes? So I'm following up on the fact that I took square footages off of different real estate websites, tax websites. And what I did is I went on more than one website to verify square footages of lots and square footages of buildings, and and they were very consistent. And
Rob, you
what I
guys
wanted to present to you is that a number of the homes, you can see the ones in yellow, are all houses that are over the 36%. The house directly to the north is at 51.5%. The two houses directly across the street are 54.6 and 55.1. A number of the houses on Greenwood are 43, 50, 44. The houses on the other side are 37, 40, and 50. Now, 20 and 22 are not over. 20 is 29%. 22 is 30.1%. The only area consistently where they're not over is this area on Oval Road. And the main reason you can see is that the lots are double the size.
Hey, Christine, hold on a second.
Yes.
What one would normally do to ascertain this information would be to go to the official tax records of the municipality and then take those tax records and go pay a visit to the tax assessor to learn how those square footage measurements are made, what is included, what is excluded. Whether basement, garage, whatever it is. Did you perform that exercise?
I did not.
Okay. With regard to let's talk about lots 64 and 67 and 68. Did you write down based on your calculations what those FARs are?
Yes.
Okay, just tell us those three.
Lot 64 is 25.2. Lot 67 is 33.6. And lot 68 was 36.1. But I felt that it was close enough to 36 that I didn't include it because there could be a slight margin of error that was 50 square feet differential. So I was very conservative also in my numbers. There were a number of houses that were just a hair over 36 that I didn't include because, like I said, I felt like there could be a little bit of a margin of error with that. I confirmed, like I said, I confirmed the subject property with two different websites that gave floor area and lot area, and they were right on. Unfortunately, your online tax records, some towns do and some towns don't, but yours doesn't give you the square footage of the building or the lot area, that I can't access that online. I know Livingston does and East Hanover does, but you guys unfortunately don't. That was the first place I looked. But even if these numbers are off a little, the point I was getting at is that the house is not so big in comparison to the rest of the neighborhood. The front of the house virtually stays the same other than the front porch. The addition is on the second floor in the rear over existing kitchen and den. And I think our addition is fairly modest in terms of to be able to get the extra bedroom that's required for my client. Like I said, the biggest issue is getting the bedroom. And that's pretty much why I'm presenting this to you, to show you that it's not out of character of the neighborhood, and it doesn't really substantially impair the streetscape of the neighborhood. I know a number of you went back to the house and you had to have driven around the neighborhood. And when you do, and you look down the side yard, you see that almost every single one of these houses that's over the 36% has got a sizable 2-story addition to the rear. And the only ones that aren't are 126 and 71 and 65. Those are additions are to the side because they pretty much face the side street or the river road. So you see that full addition.
Did you look at whether any of these that you're showing or that you just testified to are pre-existing non-conforming conditions versus any that receive variance relief?
You know what? I did not look into that because obviously when all of these houses were built, they didn't have the additions in the back. I don't know exactly how long this ordinance has been in effect, but it's got to be a minimum of what, 25 or 30 years. It's pretty long. Eileen, do you know how long?
Well, FAR in the R6 zone did not come into play probably until maybe 2009. There was
Oh, it's that recent? Okay.
Yeah, there was never an FAR. That's relatively recent in the R5 and the R6 zone.
Okay. Just because I know that these are all additions, I couldn't tell you whether they're 5 years old or 20 years old. But I'm just trying to make a point of the consistency of the neighborhood that 43% is not that much over in comparison to a number of other houses in the neighborhood.
Okay, anything further?
No, I think that's pretty much it.
Okay, you can stop your screen share, please.
Okay.
Any questions for the architect from the board?
I have a question of Eileen.
Sure.
Did I sit on this case at the last meeting?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any questions for Ms. Masaya? In that case, I will open up to the audience. Does the audience have any questions for Ms. Masaya regarding this application? Then in that case, I will close the public portion of this hearing. Board members, what comments do you have? Anyone?
Well, I'll go first.
Sure.
I think, the changes, while they are modest, I mean, it's a mild change from what was done before, but it does, ease up, some of the lot coverage and opens up more of the backyard. So it's certainly an improvement over what was offered before.
Okay. Anyone else have any thoughts?
So I just want to be clear because I think that everything that's still on the website has the old FAR, if I'm right. Right?
Correct.
Okay, and the new FAR is still 45, right?
It's 43.7% according to the testimony.
43.7, okay. I can't imagine ever supporting an FAR like that. It's the craziest. It's it's the craziest thing. I've, you know, it's over 17% over. I can't vote for an FAR like that. You know, I revisited the house. I looked at it again just this weekend. I wanted to try to understand it, and I was hoping that maybe the revisions would be a little more. So it's tough. It's tough.
Well, to be clear, it's coming down from the 17.3 down to like 7.7, right?
Correct. It's going from 17% deviation to approximately 7%
So it's
deviation.
going from 53.3% FAR down to, they've trimmed it down to 43.7.
Mind you, the house does not conform as it currently sits.
Right, at 38, right.
Right, 38% versus 36. So I'll go next. So we're dealing with what is 400 square feet over the base 1,850 square foot standard. I think my biggest concern with this is the massing. I think the massing in the backyard is tremendous, especially now with adding that extra dormer on top, which I realize does not contribute to FAR, but at the same time is contributing to the overall massing in the backyard of this house. So the front yard looks like one thing, but then when you look from the middle point on the back of the house, it's massive. And I do realize it's an undersized lot for the zone and so forth, but it just speaks to the ability for this lot to accept that extra square footage. So it's not so much the number that in and of itself, but what that number translates into massing on the property. And that's where I have an issue.
So I'm going to remind the board that because this is an FAR variance that's requiring 5 affirmative votes, and that the applicant is obligated to demonstrate, in essence, special reasons, where the board's focus has to be on whether the site's going to accommodate the problems associated with the proposed use, but with a larger floor area than what's permitted by the ordinance. And then, of course, also trying to meet the negative criteria without substantial detriment to the public good and without substantial impairment to the master plan and zoning ordinance. So I think that based on certainly some of the comments that we've heard, both for and against, given the fact that we have 7 eligible board members and they need 5 affirmative votes for an approval, I would recommend that the board members at least state what their preferences are one way or another, and why, beyond what we've heard from Wolfgang, Craig, and Steve so far.
Thank you, Rob.
I'll go next, I guess. So I appreciate, and I guess this echoes a little bit of what Wolfgang said. I appreciate the reductions that were made because what was being asked for was so much, and it has been reduced significantly. But on the other hand, the FAR was already, I recognize that the lot is smaller, than might be otherwise in the neighborhood for a conforming lot, but the FAR is already, I think, 3.2% above what is allowed, which is the kind of thing that perhaps we would vote and allow. I think what it is like the perception of it for me, right? When you come from 17 down to 7, you say, oh, well, that's not so much maybe. But when you think about it as if it were, a house that was already conforming in terms of FAR and you wanted to add on, like normally I think we would vote perhaps to give 3%, if it made sense. So I struggle with this a little bit, but I don't think, that it necessarily support, that there's support for this from the positive and negative criteria, and that it already, is a larger house than FAR wise than would normally be there. So I honestly, I think I'm leaning towards still a no for this particular case.
All right, I'll go next. I mean, I do think that 17 down to 7.7 is a big change, but I don't think it's enough, especially like if this case came with its current numbers to begin with. I still would have been leaning towards a no, given the massing and the size of what they're doing. So, though I do appreciate that they worked on slimming everything, I still am a no.
Any other thoughts?
Just to add on to what I said earlier, I would further clarify what I said, that I would, given the, the amelioration and the variances that they're requesting, I would support this.
Thank you, Wolfgang.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would actually come out where Wolfgang did, given the small size, the undersized plot, and the numbers coming down to half. Appreciate it is much higher still than what the board would like to see. But given the overall situation, I would be supportive of this application.
Simple math tells me that we're probably not there, but Joe, do you have any thoughts?
Not really. I'm inclined to support the application, but I would not make the motion or second the motion.
I understand. So Christine, I see you're on the phone.
Yeah, I'm just confirming, consulting with my client to see whether or not they would like to see if we can make it smaller or go for a vote. If you'd give me 30 seconds.
Yeah, just can I chime in? For a
Yeah,
second?
please do.
So you understand, and the McCarthys understand, that if you go for a vote and you do not get the 5 affirmative votes, then the application is denied. What that means legally is that you can't come back next week, next month, next year, forever with a revised application that does not propose a significant change from your last application. And the law is all over the place in terms of what's substantial and what's not substantial. So the doctrine is called res judicata. So we warn applicants just to be careful about, in essence, going for the vote, because if the vote is denied, then if you want to come back to the board, it has to be what the law sees as a significant change, because otherwise it would be res judicata and a final determination that would preclude you from presenting substantially the same application the next time. So you either can go for a vote, as you stated, or you can carry the matter and see if, offline, when you're not on the phone with your clients, if there's an opportunity to take the board's comments into consideration or not. That's up to the applicant.
I would like to adjourn this because it doesn't 5 votes, and adjourn this possibly to the next available meeting so that we can take a look at this to see where we could possibly change the massing in the back or do something to work this out. So the board is acceptable with what we proposed, and that the McCarthys can live with even smaller bedrooms upstairs, because we're essentially not changing the footprint downstairs. So really our addition, we're only adding 18 square feet on the first floor. So our addition is essentially the second floor in the back. So that's something that if we could discuss that and then be put on the next available agenda.
Eileen, when's your next date?
For our next board, I think we meet on August 1st and 15th.
The first would mean I'd have to have the drawings to you in 2. I don't think I can do that.
Yeah, so next available would be the 15th.
Okay, then let's plan on the 15th, just because I don't think it's physically possible for me to even get them drawn and printed in a day.
Okay, then if that's the case, then this application will be carried to August 15th and no further notice. If you're here in the audience for this, then we will be moving it to the 15th.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, next application. Oh, let me just tell Jessica we're back. Okay, just we'll sign on. Next up, we have calendar 387422. Alex and Draja Kissel at 52 Walnut Avenue.
Which one are we doing?
387422. Kissel.
Sorry, brought the wrong people over. My bad.
No problem. Good evening, folks. How are you?
Good, good,
Great. Hey, Tim, how's it going tonight?
good.
Super.
Good to see everybody.
Likewise. So who'll be speaking this evening?
I was hoping to do a brief intro, very brief, and then Tim can speak on the merits of the application, if that's
Great.
okay.
Then Mr. Fishman will swear you in.
Why don't you just raise your right hands, please? Do you swear from testimony you're about to give tonight be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Just state your names for the record, please.
Alexander Kissel.
Andrea Kissel.
Timothy Klesse. I actually raised my hand. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to, but
might as
You
well.
are supposed to.
if it's okay, I was trying to get it done.
So Mr. Kissel, why don't you proceed?
Good evening, members of the board. Thank you for considering your application. Currently, we're a family of 3. I'm Alexander, my wife Andrea,
The J is pronounced as Y.
and we have a 1.5-year-old little Henry. We moved to Millburn just about 2 years ago in August 2020. We're excited as this is our first ever house. We found exactly what we were looking for here in South Mountain. We love how beautiful the neighborhood is. We feel that it's walkable to the downtown. It's walkable to the train station that we use to commute. We go to the parks and the playgrounds.
And the Superman.
We love the Trader Joe's. Right now, the daycare is also conveniently located in Millburn. South Mountain Elementary School, which we hope Henry will attend in the future, is merely steps from our home. It's great to see so many families with young children around us. So to us, this is a place to lay roots and raise a family.
And we bought this house that has so much potential. It just needs to be updated to make it our home and also suitable, not just for today, but years down the line for our growing family. We're looking to add a bedroom, and also really looking for usable and child-friendly outdoor space. And to achieve this, we have partnered with Tim Plessy, who's Millburn-based architect, who's also sensitive to the needs of our town.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to pick up from here, and I don't know if I need to be sworn in or.
You're sworn in, you just need to be
Yeah.
qualified. So why don't you
Okay.
give us your qualifications as an architect?
I have a Bachelor in Architecture from New Jersey Institute of Technology, and I'm licensed in New Jersey and in New York, and have been licensed for about 25 years. I've appeared in front of this board and I don't know, 50 boards probably in New York and New Jersey and Connecticut. And my license is in good standing.
Thank you very much, Tim. Please
Okay.
proceed.
Okay. I'd like to share my screen.
Sure.
Oh, I think that there is a, I think we have the neighbor to the right, I think is on tonight, and she has concerns about the addition on her side. And related to that, I went back to take a look at this at the site tonight. Okay, so I figured I would just start here so we can all take a look at it. This is our house. It's 52 Walnut Avenue. It's an R6 zone, you know, it's lot 12, block 604. It's actually a little oversized, the lot. It's 7,104 square feet, right, where 6,000 is really required. I would call this a colonial revival. Looks to me like it was built in the late 20s or early 30s when a lot of construction actually went on. And it's a neighborhood of really pretty similar homes, sort of, I'm going to say 2.5-story homes. You know, when I say 2.5, I mean first, second floor, and then a half-story attic space. And they all are about equal size, all on sort of these kind of narrow lots. You know, this lot is 49 feet wide, and that's our biggest issue here, is that it's only 49 feet. And the ordinance actually would require it to be 60 wide, so it's a little undersized. But anyway, I went back to take a look tonight because we are talking about adding onto this right side, right above where my cursor is pointing, which is a previously enclosed open porch, I'm sure, is what this was. We're not adding in the front here, we're adding in the back. Like not adding the way that addition has been done onto this, which probably actually was original. I said addition, but that's probably the porch for this house. But adding back behind. Then if I just walk down this site a little up, so I guess, oh yeah, I can. The actual straight on front, you can see that little 1-story building, right? A full 2.5-story on the left side and a gambrel. A nice collection of housing. There's that same side again. And here we are from the back with a 1-story addition, which was added. I don't know. I'm going to guess it was added about the year 2000 or maybe 1995. And just look to me like that's about when it was built. What we are asking to do tonight is to go over this building and to add a screen porch in this area, which would allow us to go over the screen porch so that we can have enough space to create a master bedroom suite in the rear. I actually added the screen porch on this side so that I could take the addition and, looking from the back now, as we are, I could push the building to the right so I could get it further away from this left side property line, so as to kind of get a little distance from what I'm going to say the most affected neighbor. That's going to take you into the survey now. which is exactly the same as the survey that's on your BOA 1 sheet. Okay, it's the survey on the right side on your BOA 1. And you can see our
So, hey, Tim, I'm sorry I'm interrupting you. So the photos are A1, series of photos?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot that. The photos are A1 and yes, yeah, I'm sorry. The survey could be A2 in this case, or else it could be accepted as being the same as.
Well, if you haven't made any revisions, then we don't need to mark it separately.
I just was making a list of them here, so I'll just do that. So this is really, if you look at the top, Walnut, as we're coming down, right? Then there's the curb. Then there's, maybe 3 or 4 feet of grass, 4-foot sidewalk, 3 feet of grass. That distance to the property line is about 12 feet. I'm going to say it's about 4, 4, and 4. Then our front yard setback is 45 here, which is better than average, right? We actually are further back than the average. Our existing home with the existing 1-story addition. Remember, this building here is the 1-story building that's that formerly enclosed porch. So what I did is I put our 2nd floor building there and I pulled it in to get it off of the kind of what I'm going to call the right side property line, the left side, and because this picture is rotated 180 degrees, but I pulled it off so that I could be at 8.54 for my building, which is my side combined. And I did that so that I could conform to side combined. Put my building there, and then I added this screen porch on the 1st floor so that I could get enough room to fit an entranceway and a bathroom up on my 2nd floor. Beyond that, I added a deck behind, and then modified the driveway a little bit. And we've also doing some other things to this site, which I think the neighbor has concerns about that really aren't part of the application, where we're adding a retaining wall here because the property drops off about 3 feet from about where my cursor is to the neighbor's property. So we were adding a retaining wall here so we could fill this to get it level for a yard. Okay, that's really what that retaining wall work is. And then the other thing that we did is we took the existing front stoop and having closed it, the in front portico, and then added a stoop forward of it so that we could get a little room into this front mudroom. And that's really all of the work that we're doing on this site. And just take you into my BOA sheets, which are exactly the same as your BOA sheets. I just showed you the 1st floor or the site plan, and I'll show it to you again just as existing now. Right, you come in, this building is really a 2-story box that I'm going to say is about 27.5 by 27.5. And then there's a 1-story porch, and then this 1-story addition that was added behind. All of this is about 5.25 off of the property line. Then there's a patio there, which we're removing as part of this work. And the detached garage is way in the back corner, giving us a sort of excessive lot coverage. And there's the same survey that I just showed you before, where we're sort of modifying the driveway, removing that patio, adding the deck, adding over a portion of that 1-story building, and then adding a screen porch so that we could get a building above it really for our 2nd floor. I go on to my next sheet. And I see that my guys have done something that Joe hates when they do, is that, we always locate our front door towards the bottom of the sheet. So I've actually now flipped again, and Walnut is on the bottom of the sheet. I come back, that line right there is my required front yard setback. I'm on my first floor plan, my BOA 2 sheet. We're enclosing that existing front portico so that we can create a little bench and shelf to create a mudroom. Took off that little vestibule door just to get a little space there. I removed this side door because it's unusable. I'm only 7.55 feet off the property line. I mean, the stoop has to be removed. It's really impossible to drive a car back there. And then I come down and we're plotting the line. You can see my 6.68 off my right side property line, and that is my 8-foot line coming down, my required setback. So we come down back at this point, we're at 5.25 existing, right? That's my 8-foot mark. And this is my existing sunroom or family room that was added, I'm going to say probably around 1995, I think. And what we're proposing to do is to add a bedroom over that. And then I added this sort of, I called it a screen porch, but it's really an open porch. Added a porch here, stairs down to our driveway, and then added the deck behind. Okay. In addition to that, we're also adding these retaining walls so that we can sort of level the property. Really not part of the application, but I think it has concern to the neighbor. The deck itself I set so that it would be at 8 feet off the property line, but the deck is required to be at 12 feet. And if I come, it's going to move up to my second floor. All right, it's really in front. Everything is staying as is. All I did was come up the stairs and add a hallway here. So I made this bedroom a little smaller, right? It's really sort of 1, 2, and then that front small room that has that stairway where you can get up into the attic in it, you know. But so what we did is I cut the hallway here, I come down, I create the bedroom, and then I came across and created a bathroom, which I only left it 6 feet wide because I was trying to make it as tight as I could. I set that corner at the 8.54 to actually hit my side combined, even though my existing is at 5.25. And there's 8, which would be the required setback, really for the first 18 feet. So I pushed it in a little more than was actually required in this point. But my deck is required to be at 12 feet, and I'm really at 8 feet with my deck. So that's how I put my building into here. You can see that I just sort of have slid it over. Actually, my guys have told us, see, we slid it over 3 foot 4 inches to the left so that we could get it to conform. And then if I move on to my third sheet. This is my front elevation, right? I've enclosed the front portico. I've removed the side overhang for the old side door because we actually just removed that door. This is my new second floor building coming in, and I made it so that I would conform to my 8 foot and then the additional setback up to 12 foot at 32 feet. So I actually made it conform and made it conform to the 8.54, the side combined. So I got it to fit in terms of side combined. If I come to my right side elevation, right, the portico has been enclosed. My existing building is here. That is really the existing bathroom window. Then we added our second floor, pushed in that 3 foot 4 inches, and added my new roof as I come across the back and my new deck. That's gonna, I don't think there's anything else on this sheet. If I come to my final sheet, see off of my rear elevation, right? I've taken the grade, which this dotted line is a pretty good indication of how the grade goes. It kind of has a little dip to it. And what we did is we kind of are filling that area so that we can get a level backyard. And then there's my 8-foot mark coming up to 18 foot, going up to 32 feet. There's my building addition. This is my open porch below on the first floor, because I really had to do that because I didn't want to take my building more to the left. So I just created a open area below so I could do that. And then here is my existing family room, which we're adding over. That distance from that point to there is the 3 foot 4 inches that I was talking about before. If I go up the driveway, we're really doing the same thing. We enclosed the portico, we removed the side door, added our new door. This is our porch, which I'm going to say is about 6 feet deep. And then my new deck coming out into the backyard. If I go to the, am I killing you guys? Steven looks like I'm kind of killing him, I think. I'm sorry. If I just go quickly, I'll go a little quicker and then maybe we'll just get this thing opened up a little bit. But if I go to inside your application, if I get to page 13 inside the application, this site really is over on building lot area, right? It's 7,104. So it's really only required to be 6,000. But the width is required to be 60. We're only at 49. That's really the problem with this site. Although my depth is 150 feet. My front yard is actually set back more than required and greater than the average, and therefore this work in the front really has no bearing. My side combined, we have it at 16.09 requiring a variance. And my rear occupied all conforms. I pretty much conform as I go down the road. My building coverage conforms. My lot coverage is over by 100. The lot coverage is over, I think, by 116 square feet. And my FAR conforms. My deck does not conform, it requires a variance. And my maximum accessory coverage is over by 1.3%. That's the deck in the backyard, really. And the deck, I guess, in the garage in the backyard area. If I
Any variances pertaining to this wall you're talking about?
Pardon me?
Any variances pertaining to that wall you mentioned several times?
No, it conforms, but
Okay.
no. If my side combined is really, we're asking for a variance of 1.06 feet or 2.2%. My lot coverage, we're asking for a variance of 131 square feet or 1.8%. Both of those are really also existing non-conforming conditions. The accessory structure, which is really the deck, is a new element. And there we're asking to put it at 8 feet, but the ordinance requires me to be at 12. And the maximum accessory coverage is a variance of 1.3%. The site itself, we've really what this project is to enclose that front portico and to add over the one-story family room in the rear so that we can create a master bedroom suite. and to add the deck. And I just want to remind the board that I pushed it really to the left as far as I could so that I could kind of keep it away from the neighbor's property. The existing house is actually located really close to the right side property line. Right? It was 5.58 feet off that property line. And that's really a big hardship with this site, is the actual location of the existing building. I would say also that, you know, this building is really located in the rear, not really visible from the street. And therefore, I think it is really in size and scale to the structures that are in the neighborhood. I think this is an approvable variance on as a C1 with the exceptional narrowness of this existing lot and the placement of the existing building. I think it's clear that the neighborhood is advanced by the updating of this housing stock and sort of, and it's been done in a way that's sort of respectful to the neighbors. I think actually we've kind of tucked this addition into the rear and made it as de minimis from the street as actually possible in this case. I just don't know if anyone has any questions or comments for me or.
Okay. Stop sharing then.
Okay. Got it.
Okay. Any questions from the board for Mr. Klesse?
So, Tim, you said you're gonna level that backyard, is that right?
Yes, yes.
And that just basically involves putting in a retaining wall and building up what would be the right side of the backyard when looking from the front of the house.
Yes, yes. It's about a 60-foot long, 3-foot high wall. I think I mean, we could limit it to 3 feet. I wrote 4 feet, and I think that I don't want to speak for the neighbor because I've never spoken to her, but from my client, I think that she was concerned about the 4 feet. But I mean, we don't need it perfectly level. They were just hoping to get some room to be able to, have some space in their backyard.
But there's no variance required for this.
There is none.
Okay, thank you, Tim.
Any other questions? Then I will open up to questions from the audience for Mr. Klesse. I see a hand raised of Elaine Weiland. Are you bringing her over, Eileen? Yeah.
Yeah, I brought her over. There she goes. Okay.
Ms. Weiland, if you could please unmute and turn on your camera.
I'm unmuted, right? You can
You're
hear.
unmuted, correct.
Okay.
Just
Yeah,
need
my
your camera on.
Okay, I got it. Thank
Great.
you. Wait, I'm trying to get it open.
Perfect.
Yeah, it should, okay. All right.
Great. So if you have any questions, this is for questions only.
Yes.
Of Mr. Klesse regarding his testimony.
I do. The retaining wall is depicted on the property line, which cannot be, because I don't want a liability for the retaining wall. But there's a slope in the backyard. I'm sure people who came to see the backyard saw that there's a pretty significant slope. So doesn't that require a setback and a variance?
So as we've already established that there is no variance required for.
Wait a second, how do we know that? Because I think there's at least a 20% slope.
20%?
Eileen,
20 degrees, sorry. 20
Oh.
degrees.
it's just that it's artificially graded. That
It is not no.
no,
I've lived
it
in the
is.
neighborhood.
It's not a steep slope.
Well,
Oh, that's
Ms.
not
Wyland,
true.
if there is,
I could push that off because it's really probably not even Eileen. It's really Christine's.
correct, that's where I was
the
going
only
with this.
problem here, but we could have her decide that independent of this.
Okay, so I will tell you this, that if any type of grading permit is required for this backyard, it will need to go through the proper channels at town hall. So it cannot be arbitrarily done, and this board is not the final say so if a grading permit is required.
Great. Okay.
And just to add to that, if a grading permit is required and the engineering department determines or requires a slope analysis, it's determined that there is steep slope, then the wall will have to be appropriately pulled in.
Okay.
Or come back in front of us.
Got it.
Right, if he doesn't want to pull it in, correct.
Right.
Okay. And then in terms of retaining wall, the neighborhood has a lot of water. What about drainage for the wall?
Once again, that would have to go through our engineering department, and they will
Engineering.
make the determination on whether or not there is any type of issue with drainage in the
Right.
neighborhood.
Okay, fair enough. There's an air conditioner at the corner of the house in the plans. Isn't there a setback for an air conditioner?
Yes,
And what is that setback?
2 times the building, so 16 feet in this case.
To the corner of
It's
my
2
building?
times it's 2 times the building setback.
But
so
how about to the property line? Is there a?
No, it's to the adjacent.
You could do
building.
it on the property line, even?
Well, no.
Well, as long as it's the necessary distance from your house.
Right.
Okay,
So
because
it's based on distance from the neighbor's house, not from the property line. The property line is not a factor.
But I do want to say, Elaine, that I think my client is willing to put the air conditioner on the other side because it would conform to that on that side also. Okay, I'm not 100% sure of that, but
that
it
is what.
conforms in the location where we put it now. But I think they're
So you're saying it just, but so the requirement though would be 16 feet and
from the air conditioner to your home and
not to the deck, to the,
no, to the building.
right, to the building.
And it's 18 right now.
Yeah,
That's 18 right now.
yeah,
But I think that they're not really concerned. Just so
right.
you know.
Okay, but I just want it on the record because well, I'll do that in the comments. Oh, the first floor area. I couldn't, on your sheet,
Yeah,
you calculated as 1,140. That's page 14, it's yours. Because you have the 324 for the garage. You have 1,140 for the first floor. And that's for 1,464, correct? Do you see what I'm talking about?
I just need a second.
It's page 14 in the application. So I can't come up with that 1,140. I come up with more. So I come up with like 1,208, which raises the floor area. I think it makes it to a variance. I mean, a little, not like the one before, but like 36.9 instead of 35.9. So if you could give me the dimensions.
35.
I can give you my dimensions.
think the primary box is about,
Right. 27.25 times 27.5, right?
you're actually ahead of me.
Can't hear you, Tim.
You're ahead of me. I don't really know. It's a
Well,
little
okay,
difficult for me to-
what I'm getting, well, that would make a variance. What I'm getting is 27.25 times 27.5 for the box. That's 749.375. Then the little porch is 7 times 27.5 minus 4, which is 23.5. That comes out to 163.8. And then the family room in the back, 18.45 times 16.2 is 298.89, making it 1208.065, which would create another variance, I believe, for the floor area.
Well,
For the record.
yeah,
Okay.
I don't know how to,
Okay, so you don't have that
It's
data
just-
with you, so I'm giving it to everybody, all right? There's a missing variance. And then, okay. About the covered porch, does that require a concrete foundation or does it just require us, what do they call them?
piers.
I don't know what that is.
Like
Will it
piers, like
affect-
like a deck footing.
A footing, okay,
Footing.
that's what I wanted, I couldn't get the word. Okay, so just a footing, so that would not necessarily have anything to do with rain, it wouldn't change the pattern of water absorption in the land. Or would it?
You know, that's really more.
Well, well, no, it's very impactful because I'm on the lower end of this property. And anything you push out is gonna go actually toward my garage, which is prone toward to termite damage and water destruction, because it's sort of at the bottom of the hill. I also, you might be unaware, but there's like a shoreline that encompasses Mountain View Road between Walnut and Myrtle. And why I call it a shoreline, because I've seen during all the storms, that's where the shore reaches. And I don't want it coming any closer or coming up through the ground. So it's important. The side setback, you're putting it at 8.54, but it's for more than 18 feet.
Pardon me?
The second floor, isn't it greater than 18 feet? Wouldn't the setback be 12 feet on the second floor?
It's 12 feet at 32 feet.
Not at anything greater than 18?
No, it
That's
goes
wrong?
on, it goes on an angle from 12 to 18. It's
From
like
12
kind
to
of-
18, it goes on an angle?
Yeah, in height.
The setback. So then it's not, so it starts at 12 feet at 8, the setback is 8, because you're saying the side setback is 8 feet, and you're at 8.54. But
I can show it to you again if you want.
no, if I need it, but what I'm saying is the second floor is not entirely at 18 feet. In fact, that part of the house encompasses one of the highest part of the pitch in the land. Their land kind of sits on the top of a mountain. And the side of the house, I think ranges between 12 and 18 feet on the second floor. So that means the setback is greater than that. Sorry?
And I'm sorry, Joe, could you please mute? You're getting feedback.
I have something that I'd like to say, Mr. Chairman.
Please do that.
I think the issues that are being raised by this woman are for Eileen David, not for the board.
Oh. Is it true?
Okay.
I mean, we could handle it with a meeting or something.
Well, that's up to you. Like I said, but most of these questions, like I said, and many of them, Ms. Wyland, will be addressed by various engineering.
Okay.
The side yard
Okay,
setback is addressed on sheet BOA 4. The setback is 8 feet up to 18 feet in height, and it's a staggered setback for every foot above 18 but below 32. And he clearly shows the setback line, and there's no portion of the addition which is encroaching into the required side yard setback above 18 feet.
Okay. No, but that you would have an engineer that would determine that if that's true. Is that what you're saying? I guess that's my question then.
No, the setback is determined when the plan is submitted. There's no variance required for the setback.
Oh, so somebody already looked at it? Is that what we're saying? At the
Correct.
property, at the height?
Yes. in order to identify
Okay,
the
then.
variance.
That's my questions.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone in the audience otherwise have any questions for Mr. Classy? I do not see any, so we will open for comments. Ms. Wyland, did you have a comment you want to make?
Yes. I'll be
Come on.
fair.
Wait. She needs to be sworn in then, right?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Would you raise your right hand, please, Ms. Wyland? Do you swear from testimony you're about to give to be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Your name and address for the record.
Elaine Wheeland, WEILAND, 54 Walnut Avenue. That's it, right? Just 1 second. I wrote it down. I'm having trouble finding it. Okay. Okay, some of this I don't have to say. Okay, I believe the second story is too close to my property, the second story addition. We live in our setup is a variance. It's true, but both homes, we live very close to each other. And a second story, because I calculated that it would go 3 feet in from the current roof that sits there. And it would create like an alleyway between the two houses. I have a personal experience with construction of a large addition. It was built on the other side of my house. And we have greater distance between our homes. There's probably about 12 feet between my homes, and the addition eliminated a lot of light and space for me. And I feel the second story would do the same on the left side. I am also, wait. If the project is, I have some photos, but they're on my husband's iPad. Could we, what do you have to do for that? Can we just, he's there.
Unless you can share the screen, we cannot.
I can't share it on mine, but can you get him in? Because he's sitting next to me.
He would have to log on.
He's logged in. What does your name show? Leonard Wheeland or Lenny Wheeland?
Is it Lenny Blue NJ?
It's Lenny Blue, that's him.
Okay, we can bring him over.
Okay.
Do you know how I would do it?
I'll mute, okay.
Please do. Mr. Wheeling, we'll have to swear you in.
Yeah.
Do you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear?
Somebody's getting feedback.
Somebody's got to lower their volume too. One of them.
Yeah, okay, I do.
Oh, well, we didn't swear you in yet. Okay, do you swear from testimony you're about to give tonight be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Just state your name for the record and address.
Leonard Wheeland, 54 Walnut Avenue.
Okay, Mr. Wheeland, so you'd like to share your screen?
Yeah, I'm going to try to do that. Some photographs I have.
Okay.
I don't know how to do it.
Remember, you can only speak one at a time, just so you know.
You know, okay, wait, I'm trying to get it up here.
Greg, I recommend that we.
Oh, here,
mark the-
share content
Oh,
photo.
Sorry, Rob.
Okay, let me just,
Yes,
yeah. Hold on,
but she is, right,
do it again.
1 second,
Thank you for your patience.
start here. No, there. Can you see that?
No.
No? Wait, done then. That one?
Okay. Now you're saying, Rob?
Yeah, I'm suggesting that how many photos are you gonna show, Mr. Wieland?
4 or 5.
4 or 5.
All right,
Okay,
why don't we,
One of you can only speak at a time.
why don't
Okay,
we mark,
so this is from our property.
Hang on.
hold on, Ms. Wieland.
Okay,
First of all, which one of you are gonna be describing these photographs?
I'll do it.
Okay. We're gonna mark the series of photographs as 01. And we're gonna call it series of 5 photographs. Is that fair?
That's fair, thank you.
And who took the photographs?
My husband and I took it.
And when were these photographs taken?
Saturday,
The 16th of
yes, 2 days ago,
July?
July 7th, 16th, 2022, yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so this is from our deck, okay, because the deck comes out as far as the addition in the back. Hopefully I can get, I think I might have to upload each photo one at a time, so stop. Wait. I have to stop and then I have to share again, sorry. This is the space oops, you didn't see it. Can you see? This is the space between the houses. Okay, and you can see my deck. We have 2 air conditioners here. That's why my concern about the air conditioner being on their property. And that corner, that's why I brought that up, because as it is, I dislike my air conditioners where they are. And an additional one seems like a lot of noise. There is a slope, you know, that you could see from this angle. Let me get the next photo.
Yeah.
Share. Oh, wait, that's the same one. Stop. This is the back where you could see it more slope over here.
We don't see a photo.
Oh, sorry. From the back angle, you see my deck on the right, their gutter on the left, and the slope in the back. And with the garage that takes the hit. Let me stop. Share. I'm almost there, guys. This one. Okay, this is from my bedroom. So the proposed roof, you know, I calculated would end about 3 feet in. I don't know if I'm right, but I'm probably close to being right. 3 feet in on top of that, that addition.
You lose a view in the air.
Right. And then finally, this is the last photo. Oh, so we drew in an add-on here. This is the deck. This is how close we are. This is, you can see a view from our property. And then, yeah, my husband's concerned about any sort of, because it's so close, anything falling down from, that might fall on the roof.
Branch, shingle.
Branch, a loose shingle, etc. All right. Okay, and then I'll just say my final comment, that if it was to be approved with all its variances, you have to think that you would have to approve a similar project for my property or the one on the other side. And then you have all these very huge homes creating alleyways and like towers, you know, in a very different feel for the neighborhood. We have very simple lots on Walnut Avenue, and the houses are already close, and multiple projects would change the neighborhood. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience has any comments regarding this application? I do not see any, so we'll close the public portion.
Can I sum up real quick?
Oh yeah, if you'd like to, go ahead.
Is that
Go for it.
okay?
Yeah.
I just want to remind the board that I understand exactly what the neighbor is talking about, and we can volunteer to relocate the AC compressor to the other side of the property where it will also conform to get rid of the noise. But I think in terms of the addition is we really made it as small as possible so that we could get it into the backyard and the site and sort of minimize its impact on the street. We left windows off of the addition on the second floor so that we wouldn't impact the neighbor also. It is also true that the board itself is empowered to protect the neighborhood, right? Which may not necessarily mean the individual neighbors. It's the visual character of the neighborhood itself. And I think that this addition allows this house to be renovated and cleaned up and updated, and it still protects the character of the neighborhood. It's definitely not an addition that's out of scale to the neighborhood itself. Okay, I think I'm done. I'm not going to go on anymore. Is there any questions from anyone on the board?
I think we're good on that. So thank you very much. Okay, so now I'll close the public portion of the hearing. So board members, what do you have to say?
No, I'll lead off by saying that the concerns raised by the neighbor, I was wondering specifically if those concerns would be raised. And, sure enough, they were. I also think there's, this project results in a lot of massing in the back. It really eats up, most of whatever's left of the backyard, or a good deal of what's left of the backyard. And I think it's not in scale. I don't think it's in keeping with the neighborhood character, and it's obviously disadvantageous to the immediate neighbor.
Thank you, Wolfgang. Any other comments?
I agree with Wolfgang. I appreciate what the applicant is trying to do, but I think that I'd like to maybe see things a little bit tighter to give some more space. I'm concerned that the massing is just going to be too big and getting too close to the next door neighbor's house.
Thank you, Jessica. Any other thoughts?
I'll
Go ahead,
just,
Joe.
go
I
ahead.
am unpersuaded by the neighbor's testimony. And I think that these variances that are required here are minimal and do not really affect the neighbor. So I would be in favor of the application.
Thank you, Joe. Amy?
Yeah, I was just going to say, in terms of like sort of the hardship in the lot itself, the lot, the width of the lot is less than required. And so I see myself more inclined, to vote in favor of, perhaps the combined side yard variance, to build up, they're going to be in violation. And it's just, it's hard in the way that, the size of the lot as it is, right? But overall, the size of the lot is larger than required. So I have, frankly, more of an issue with the lot coverage because it's a larger than standard, let's call it, lot. So I think that's where my personal issue lies.
Okay. Steve?
I'm going to be in favor of this application. I think that the improvements are kind of standard for the standard of living that we're seeing in homes. When you stand in the backyard and you look at that property, you think to yourself, they probably should have put a two-story addition on in the first place. You know, why they didn't, maybe it was economics. It's hard, you know, we'll never know the answer to that. But the house sort of says, you know, put a second story here, because it almost looks like it belongs there. So I'm actually in favor of the application.
Thank you, Steve. I'd agree with Steve. You know, the houses are close together, and there's little that can be done about that. And, you know, you're building on top of an existing addition, so it's hard to really nip and tuck it a whole lot. So, you know, I think this is pretty well thought out, and I would also support it. Do I have a motion in this case?
So I'll move approval.
I'll second it.
Amy Lawrence,
You're muted.
No.
Joseph Steinberg,
We didn't grab that, John.
Yes.
Steve Toger,
Yes.
Wolfgang Tutores,
No.
Chandru Arjani,
Yes.
Jessica Glatt,
Yes.
Craig Klettner.
Yes.
Right, motion carries.
Yep. Good luck with the project.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have calendar 387522. Stefan and Shelley Herman at 55 Whitney Road. Hey, Dan, how are you this evening?
Good evening. Good evening. Good, thank you.
Hi.
Folks, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
Good. So who would like to start speaking this evening? Okay. Do the Hermans have any comments they'd like to make to start, or are they good?
I think they're good unless we need them.
Okay, fine. Then we'll swear them in when need be. So let's start with you, Dan.
Do you swear from testimony about to give tonight to be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Your name for the record, please.
Daniel Dubinet.
Why don't you grace us with your credentials?
Okay, if I can remember. So I was undergraduate degree at Syracuse University. I received my master's degree architecture, NGIT. I was licensed in 2001 as an architect, and my license is current and in good standing. I've appeared before this board before, and I primarily practice residential architecture in our small neighborhood.
Great. And everything's good standing?
Everything's still good.
Super. Your credentials are accepted. So please proceed.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I'm going to share the screen and take you through our application. And Rob, I would like to mark this as Exhibit A1, and I will share this after the meeting with, I'll email Eileen.
Awesome. Thank you.
Are we?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So this project, it's located at 55 Whitney Road. It's R6 zone. We're seeking 2 variances tonight as a result of the proposal. And the proposal is to add a closet on the upper level of this existing 1.5-story Cape Cod style home. Currently has 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. 2 are located on the first floor, and the master bedroom is located on the upper level, and it's limited in space. So the proposal is to add a closet to that upper level. So I'd like to take you through the plans really quickly. So we're seeing the second floor, and we're proposing to add a closet above the first floor below. And that triggers 2 variances. It triggers combined side yard setback. And because of the architecture, I'll show you, we're seeking a side yard setback. Both are existing non-conforming, and both variances won't, both existing non-conformities won't change in the numbers. Of course, visually, the house changes slightly. So the concept is to, and again, it's a Cape Cod style home, so it's second floor is mostly roof line. And so on the front of the house, we'll be expanding the roof line, the slope of the roof, and it'll hide the mass of the closet in the back. And on the back, well, let me show you the side elevation. So to achieve that look, I'm going to rise, I'm going to extend that gable roof on the front, come up and down, and this will give us the volume of the closet. And to make sense of the roof lines, I added a gable roof to the side of the house here, which this is at 7.6 feet from the property line, and proposed existing 7.6, proposed is 7.6. So again, 8 feet is the minimum required. So we're 0.4 feet over what's allowed. And really it's to architecturally make sense of the dormer that we're going to add that mostly is visible from the back. So from the back of the house, we'll expand the house here to create the closet. And I pushed it in 1'9", and that's to avoid any side to height variances for that addition. So really quickly, the site plan tells us, so these are the 2 variances. The red lines, the first red line, and I'm going to highlight it. This is the combined side yard setback. So obviously combined side yard setback is a function of the lot width. This is a 70-foot wide lot, yields us about, we need 24.5 foot aggregate on both sides. But because of the existing nonconformity of the garage at 4.21 feet and the existing at 7.57, the existing house is way out of conforming to the combined side yard. But what's interesting to note is I measured the distance from the Herman's house to the adjacent house, I think it's 59 Whitney, and we're almost 16 feet combined. So it maintains the sense of open and air space that was the intent of the zoning purpose. And I would like to show you, so there's no building coverage, no lot coverage, no FAR needed. And these are photos that I took of the subject property today, and they accurately depict the site as it is. And I'd like.
All right, so let's mark these as A2.
Okay.
And how many photos? 6?
6 photos.
You said you took them today. Dan?
Yes, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I took these today.
Okay.
So what we're seeing is obviously the home that you would say was most affected is number 59, the adjacent neighbor to the left. So most of my photographs and study was the impact to that home. And so the first picture is 59, and you can see off into the distance the roof line of what's existing. So architecturally, what I want to do is create a gable roof to make sense of the dormer. And you'll start to see a lot of semi-mature evergreens and foliage, and both the 59 and 5 Whitney are beautifully landscaped and nestled into their settings. So this is a more direct shot of 59, and there's a garage and there's a room behind the garage. I'm not sure what it is, but it looks like it's a bathroom. I don't think it's a major living spot. The next house we see 55. And quite frankly, the additional look unnoticeable from the front. It may even look better because it'll give a backdrop to these 2 gable roofs that we're seeing here. So we're going to fill in this roof line here. No change to the front. Maintain the character and charm of the house and the neighborhood. And then we've got the rear. So interestingly enough, it will look better. It'll look more connected and cohesive if I basically get rid of that gable roof over the first floor, expand the second floor. There'll be no windows planned facing the adjacent home. Again, you can see the very mature foliage between the 2 homes. This is a shot of the neighbor's garage and what I believe to be a bathroom window. And again, there's 16 feet, almost 16 feet between the 2. And this shot is from the front of the house, from the front of 55 of the Herman's home. And again, the tall arborvitaes that exist that will be maintained during construction and of course after construction, if that's a condition. And that's our application. So again, there's 2 variants needed. Both are a function of the existing home on the property, basically forcing the combined side yard setback and the existing non-conforming addition that I would love to leave it at 7.6. Of course, I could bring it in 5 inches, but I think it would call more attention to it because I need a little roof line. So that's our application. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. You can stop the screen share. Appreciate it. Board members, have any questions for Mr. Duvenet? Then I'll move to the audience. Anyone in the audience have any questions regarding this application? Questions only. I do not see anyone with their hand raised. So in that case, I will close the public portion of the meeting, and board members, what say you?
I think these are minor and appropriate variances to be seeking. I think that this is a small addition and it's not going to really affect anyone, the streetscape, the next door neighbors. There's a lot of foliage. In fact, it was hard to even get to that side of the house to look up. You could get a better view from looking at it from the street. And I think it really does look like, you know, when that addition goes in, that it's almost meant to be there to fill in that space. So I could absolutely support the application. Also, you have lovely, lovely landscaping. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jessica. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I'm sure they're tired of hearing that. Yeah, you know, it's funny. I had to stand almost where your photo 1 was taken, just to get an idea of where that where the addition, how you might be able to see it from the street. And maybe in wintertime things might be a little bit different, but it's really tucked way back in there. You can't see it. It doesn't seem to impact the neighbor on the left in any material way. So this is an easy application to approve.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any further comment? Go ahead, Wolfgang.
I would just put in my 2 cents saying I agree with both Steve and Jessica. I think it's a minimal request, and I would support this application.
Thank you, Ashley.
Just concur with what everyone else said.
Great. Then in that case, do I have a motion?
Move approval?
On a second?
Second.
Thanks, Steve.
Amy Lawrence,
Yes.
Joseph Steinberg,
Yes.
Steve Toger,
Yes.
Wolfgang Tutores,
Yes.
Chandru Harjani,
Yes.
Jessica Glatt,
Yes.
Craig Platner.
Yes. Good luck with the project.
Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank
Two.
you.
Thank you. Good night.
Lastly, we have calendar 387922 Dish Wireless at 30 Bleecker Street.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Quinn. How are you?
Good, very well. Thank you very much for your time today. I appreciate it. Can we just bring in my one witness, Akata Shaw?
Sure. That's your one witness you'd like to bring over?
Yes.
Very well.
Okay, great. Okay, so I'll try to be brief because I think you heard a little bit of a kind of background on this in the first application. I know the board's been hearing a number of applications tonight. I'm here tonight representing Dish Wireless LLC. They are a new licensed, FCC licensed wireless communications carrier to this marketplace. Its system is functionally equivalent to the other carriers, AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon. It's licensed by the FCC. They are rolling out their network, which will be launched in this area in 2023. The property in question here is block 1005, lot 2, 30 Bleecker Street. It's in the CMO zone. The property has a self-storage facility and an existing 100-foot telecommunications monopole. Site property abuts right up to I-78. What Dish is proposing here is to co-locate on this monopole. As I mentioned, the pole is about 100 feet in height. Dish will be the third carrier in height. So they'll have a center line of antennas at 75 feet. 3 antennas at a center line have 75 feet, maximum height of approximately 78 feet. So you'd have Verizon at the top, AT&T at the second level, and then Dish at the third level. The pole, I think, was approved way back in 1995, in fact. So it's been there for over 20 years. Dish will be the third carrier. We're also proposing equipment cabinets inside the fence compound near the base of the pole. The cabinets are smaller than what we've seen from the other carriers. That's just kind of what Dish requires, and it's how the technology is kind of changing to shrink in terms of equipment space. Under your ordinance, as mentioned before, with the previous application, we do require use variance. The use is not permitted anywhere in the township. Also, we required a variance for the number of uses on the property because we were adding an additional use to the property. We also noticed for a height variance as well, because technically our antennas are over the, well, not above the 100-foot, not exceeding the height of the pole, they exceed the 30-foot height permitted in the rear zone. You mentioned, your attorney mentioned before, so there's, for the basis for that variance, there's 2 different things we can look at. Number one, the federal government has issued laws that say about how local governments must approve this type of like basic co-location application, provided that there's no substantial change to the existing structure. Then it goes through a number of, the FCC has issued a number of prerequisites to make that substantial change requirement here. I think that's the case here. If you just look at it very even simply, it's adding 3 antennas to a tower and small equipment inside a fenced-in compound. In terms of traditional use variance, I think we also satisfy that. In terms of positive criteria, Dish has an FCC license, so it promotes general welfare. It's particularly suitable because the pole is there. It's an existing structure. They can utilize this pole to roll out their network. They have no coverage in the area. The site will provide a similar footprint of coverage as the other carriers. To address that coverage, I think it's about 1 mile in radius. And there's no other sites that will provide coverage for the highway, Millburn, Springfield, and the general vicinity. Also, it does that without having to build a new pole, which I think always benefits the public. So I think that's part of the positive criteria. In terms of the negative criteria, again, the site was designed to accommodate this. So having the additional use here, the additional equipment, it serves a purpose with very minimal impact to the public. very minimal impact to the neighborhood. It's in a non-residential area. It's pretty far away from any homes. I think it's pretty minor in terms of scale and nature. So I think we satisfy the requirements from either the federal law or under state traditional municipal land use law and case law that's developed for this type of application. But as I mentioned, I have one witness tonight, our civil engineer, Katka Shah. If there's no questions further, I can have her be sworn in.
Great, please do.
Okay.
Turn our camera.
Can you turn your camera on? Yeah. Edka? Can you hear me okay? Can you hear your camera on? Edka, are you there?
Yeah. Looks like.
Oh, I think
reconnecting.
it's your connected audio, I guess. That's Did you?
Some technical difficulties look like.
Maybe she should log out and come
Yeah,
back.
maybe restart.
Yeah, do you want to try? Why don't you try logging out and then logging back in again? Hopefully that'll work.
Because I have another ICATA, EK, but just ICATA in the attendee.
Oh, can you maybe learn? Maybe it's a function of one
Bring that over.
better than the
Yeah,
other.
let me bring them over. Let me bring that over because it might be.
There we go.
There you are.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I think the one which with I have to share, I'm sorry, but the one which I have to share my screen, that is not working. The audio is not working, but I have to share my screen from that computer.
Okay.
So, okay, thank you so much. Thank you. I'm
Okay.
extremely sorry for the trouble.
Okay, if you would just raise your right hand, please. Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give tonight to be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Your name and spelling your name for the record, please.
Ekta Shah, EKATA SHAH.
Thank you. If you could please give us your qualifications.
Sure. My name is Ekta Shah, business address 1800 Route 34, Wall Township, New Jersey. I have a Master's of Science degree in civil engineering from the University of Texas in Arlington. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of New York and New Jersey. I have appeared in front of numerous boards throughout the tri-state area to support various wireless telecommunication facilities and have been accepted as an expert witness in various townships.
Thank you very much. Please proceed.
Okay, so the applicant is an FCC licensed carrier, is that correct?
Yes.
And in my introduction, I mentioned they're building out the network in this market. Is that required by the FCC? Correct?
Yes.
Now, did you confirm with Dish's engineers that there's no service in this area?
Correct, I did.
And in terms of approval of the site's approved, it will provide service in the area to, as I mentioned before, Millburn, Springfield, Route 78. That's the goal of the site.
Correct.
And about service area it's going to provide, coverage area,
I'm sorry?
about how large of a coverage area will provide.
About a mile radius.
Okay. Now, in terms of the actual physical aspect of this design, I guess, can you share your plans so we can just run through what exactly Dish has proposed in order to provide this service?
Sure. Can you see my plans now?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So the plans that you see on the screen are prepared by my firm. They are dated May 3rd, 2020, revision 1. The plans.
That's exactly what was sent to the board.
What did you just say, Chris?
It's the exact version that was submitted to the board.
Right. So we're not going to mark it separately.
Okay. Okay, now I'll let you describe the overall site, please.
Sure. The site is located on Lot 2, Block 1005, commonly known as 30 Bleecker Street. Currently, the site consists of an existing 100 feet tall monopole, which is surrounded by industrial buildings and highways. Dish is proposing to install 3 antenna sectors on this existing monopole at an elevation of 75 feet above grade. There are currently 2 existing two existing carriers on this site. We will be the 3rd carrier on this site. Each sector as seen on sheet A2, each sector will consist of 1 antenna and 2 radiohead units on a new platform mount. At the base of the pole, we are proposing to install a non-penetrating steel platform at grade level. The steel platform will house 1 equipment cabinet, an electric and telco panel, and a fiber cabinet. There will be cables going from the platform to the from the equipment platform to the antenna mount platform. There is no generator proposed on this site. This is all that is proposed on this site.
Can you show, please, the footprint of the equipment compound, just so you can point out where Dish is proposing its equipment here?
Sure, I'm just going to zoom in a little.
Perfect.
Right here. So the existing compound is completely fenced, and we are proposing everything that is being proposed over here is within the fenced compound.
Okay. So we're not doing any kind of ground disturbance outside the fenced-in area?
No.
We're not increasing the height of the pole?
No.
And we're not expanding the width of anything here in terms of the pole, the antennas, nothing?
Nothing.
The antennas will be the similar color and design as size of all the other antennas here, correct?
Correct.
We're not changing any aspect of what was previously approved in this application?
No.
This property, okay.
No.
In terms of use variance, we need a variance here because the use was not permitted in the zone, correct?
Correct.
And also because bulk variance, because we're adding another user into the property.
Right.
But was this tower designed to accommodate this type of co-location and these additional users?
Usually, yes, these type of towers are designed to accommodate additional carriers.
And we've confirmed that the tower's structural capacity in order to handle the antenna load that's being proposed here?
Yes.
By Dish? Is there any lighting or signage proposed in the tower?
No, there's no lighting or signage proposed on this tower, no.
In fact, Dish doesn't even propose lighting on their equipment. They'll have a technician bring a flashlight.
Correct.
In terms of landscaping, there's already landscaping all around the site.
Correct.
So we're not proposing any because it's already there.
No.
And you mentioned before there's no generator.
Yes.
In terms of maintenance visits, technician visits, can you describe that?
Sure. Typically, a maintenance visit is done every 4 to 6 weeks. There's ample space on this compound to park a small vehicle, and that's all is required. This is completely unmanned site.
And I mentioned before that this tower isn't permitted here on this property at all. The use isn't permitted, but this board had previously deemed this use appropriate for this property in the past.
Correct.
And are we doing anything that would impact that might make this have a negative impact on that particular use here?
No negative effect.
No, in fact, it was, again, mentioned, designed to accommodate this.
Yes.
And again, this will provide service to the community without having to build another tower anywhere else in this vicinity.
Correct.
I think that's the extent of the questions I have for Ms. Shah.
Okay, then go ahead, Rob.
So Ms. Shah, are these antennas providing lower frequency, higher frequency, or both? Do you know?
No, I'm not aware of that information, but what I was told is this is just going to cover the gap in the service.
Okay. Mr. Quinn, do you know offhand?
I don't. I know it's whatever their license provides. That's what the antennas will be providing, their license frequency.
And in terms of the location of this facility, are you aware whether there was any other efforts to locate or co-locate at any other tower or other structure?
On the same structure?
No.
No, were there other efforts to go, were there other sites identified here within this area, or is this the tower that's using this?
This
Tower?
From my conversation with the RF engineer, this tower was the most suited to get the maximum coverage.
And you believe, even though you're an engineer and you're not a planner, you're familiar with these applications because you've testified in support of them before, and you're familiar with the applicant's burden to prove the positive and negative criteria, including the meeting the SECA balancing test for the negative criteria, correct? Right?
I'm
Familiar
aware
with
of
that,
it.
right? Right? And you believe, based on your discussions with the radio frequency engineer and your familiarity with the application, that in fact this property is particularly suitable to the use in terms of the positive criteria and in terms of the negative criteria, that it meets the four-part SECA balancing test in terms of looking at the public interest at stake, looking at any type of negative impacts, whether they can be ameliorated with any conditions, and then doing a balancing to see if on balance the project does not prove to be substantially detrimental to the public, correct?
Yes, and I don't think this project proves to be anything detrimental to the public. It is actually better because we're using an existing monopole.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
If you're finished sharing your screen, you can shut that off.
Oh, sure. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Does the board have any questions for this witness?
Just a quick clarificatory question. You mentioned that this covered a 1 mile radius. Are there other towers that Dish has to cover the rest of the Millburn, Springfield, and Short Hills area?
I don't know the whole list, but from what I was told, there could be more in the future because they're planning to expand their coverage to at least 60% by 2023. So they might have, but I'm not exactly sure.
So Dish is right now in the process of rolling out its network. Its current plans, from what we were advised, was that it's covering part of Millburn from the proposed. It will ultimately propose right now to utilize the monopole that's right over in the Maplewood border to provide service to Millburn. I think they're looking at a site in Summit as well that will provide service to Millburn. And I think there might be one on, again, they're only utilizing existing structures at this point for what's available, but that's what they're looking at right now. They're maybe looking at another structure in Short Hills down the line.
Thank you.
Any other questions? And I will open up the audience for questions. Any in the audience have a question for this witness? I see no hands raised. Anyone have a comment from the audience regarding this application? I see none, so I will close the public portion of this hearing. Board members, what comments do you have?
And keep in mind, everyone, that in terms of my prior comments earlier this evening with regard to the T-Mobile application, even though they're not made part of this particular record, they equally apply. Namely, the fact that pursuant to both federal law and state law, each encourages the co-location of wireless telecommunication facilities and associated cabinets without actually getting any type of variance relief. And in this case, because though the actual use is prohibited in the zone, required Dish Network to be conservative, as I stated for the last application, and file a use variance application, even though they need 5 affirmative votes. You heard testimony in terms of the positive criteria pertaining to particular suitability, and with regard to the negative criteria, in particular questions I just asked, in terms of meeting the four-part seek a balancing test. And as you heard, that there are only 3 antennas and they're not going to be any higher than the existing antennas.
Thank you, Rob. I'll go first. I think this is a uniquely suitable location for this. And since we already have a pole there and it's located in a very commercial area of town, that supplementing it with dish is by no means detrimental. So I would support this application.
Yeah, I was trying, when I drove down there, I can't remember if I've ever been all the way to that corner of the town before. But, we should all rest assured that, these are commercial businesses, Dish. It's providing a vital service. They only provide it if it's needed, if it's demanded, right? So if there's interest and demand, then they're here providing it. And if it's not, then they'll go away. So it's a win-win, I think, for the community overall.
I agree. I think this is nicely located at the corner of Millburn and Springfield, far away from many of the residences, and in a location commercial, which is conducive for all this. So I think from that perspective, I could be supportive as well.
Thank you, Chandra. Thank you, Steve. Any further comment? Do I have a motion in this case?
I'll move to approve.
Thank you, Jessica. And a second?
I'll second.
Wolfgang?
Amy Lawrence,
Yes.
Joseph Steinberg,
Yes.
Steve Toger,
Yes.
Wolfgang Tutores,
Yes.
Chandru Harjani,
Yes.
Jessica Glatt,
Yes.
Craig Klettner.
Yes. Good luck with the project.
Thank you so much. Have a great night, everyone.
Thank
You too.
you.
Enjoy the rest of your summer. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Any in the audience have anything to comment on that was not on tonight's agenda? I do not see any hands raised. So in that case, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Everyone in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Have a great evening, folks.
Okay. Good night,
Good night.
everybody.
Night, everyone.
Good night.